As a dungeon master, it's not your goal to kill your players. However, sometimes that one monk gets in the way.
Here are 5 ways that you can deal with the monk.
Welcome to the Home Brew Crew. I'm Tony, this is Sean, and today we're going over how to handle that difficult monk and kill him.
Yeah, and this all started when we had a bit of a playtest session over the weekend. So we had a level 5, 10, 15 party, and we kind of went through the different, things that the monk and the other classes get. And besides the fact that we were kind of playtesting a little off, we realized that this monk is hard to kill.
Yeah, it was actually our first time playtesting a monk with that. And, the truth is we don't really have any monks in our campaign. So when we saw all the different things that a monk gets while we were trying to play test it, we're kind of like, oh, great, wonderful. What am I supposed to throw at this thing?
Yes.
So we want to go over 5 tips that we came up with to actually go over and handle that monk.
Yeah, now obviously this video is not meant to encourage you to try and kill or murder the player that's playing the monk. But this is just a way for the DM to at least, mix things up. Because you don't want any player, really, to feel like they can just breeze through anything. And again, these problems come with any class. It's just they differ in different ways. So, for example, one of the first things we can go into is a flying creature.
Yeah, the monk is basically grounded. He doesn't have this whole thing unless you have an Aarakocra monk, which, by the way, don't allow Aarakocra monks. But if it is a flying creature that you have above it, the monk can't get to it to do the damage that he needs to do. He's going to have to rely on things like sending darts, or if he's skilled with a bow and arrow, to do that. But the thing is with that, he's still only doing those 2 attacks. You're avoiding that flurry of blows. You're avoiding all of those different things that happen with it. He's doing what, a 1d4 on a dart?
Yeah.
Or, or D6.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Yeah, no.
So if you had to choose between getting punched a lot or taking a little bit of range damage, you're usually better off taking the range damage. So being able to not being touched by the monk is really good. Even though monks do get that improved climbing speed like later on, just don't be next to the wall.
Yeah, right. Just stay right in the middle and float. That's the way to go with it. The next thing that we want to go over is direct magic spells.
Yes.
Things like Magic Missile are very, very powerful, but also things like Animate Objects. Now, they do get a resistance to bludgeoning damage, which is hard to deal with if you're having objects come up. But if you just have a bunch of tiny daggers, and you animate 10 tiny daggers, you're talking about 20 HP on those, an AC of 18, a +8 to hit, and piercing damage.
Yeah, and it's important to note, as later on, the monk gets very, very good at saving throws. And even still, sometimes, depending on how they build a character, monks can have a pretty high AC. However, by increasing the amount of times that you can hit, increases your overall percentage of actually hitting the player. You're better off trying to hit like 5 or 6 times rather than trying to hit once.
Now that brings us to our next one. And that is if you are going to look at saving throws, because monks get proficiency in everything.
Yeah, they get proficiency in all of them by the time they hit level 14.
Right, and then those dex saves that if you succeed on a dex save, they take no damage, and if they fail, they take half.
Yeah.
So those can get a little bit annoying, but if you are going to do them, you rely on intelligence and charisma saving throws.
Yes, and this, again, is a little depending on how the player built the character, but generally speaking, a monk will want to optimize on their dexterity and their wisdom.
Right. They want to increase that armor class. And if they're not increasing their armor class, they're going to be looking at their constitution and they're going to be looking at their strength.
Yeah.
In either way, the 2 that fail, and usually the ones with the least amount of modifiers to it, are going to be their intelligence and their charisma.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Unless they have like a very weird, smart, or charismatic monk, which hopefully doesn't happen too often. Those are the 2 that you can usually rely on. There's a couple of good spells that you can use as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Things like Banishment, Feeble Mind, Bane, and Synaptic Static. That one's
so
always
those last 2 are good because they essentially create this detrimental effect where every time they're trying to attack or do a saving throw or do something, they have to roll a d4 or a d6 depending on the spell.
And you're going to lessen that damage.
Yeah, exactly. It's really good. And Feeble Mind is great too. just the way that works. Banishment, obviously, taking anybody out of combat really changed the dynamics there.
You know what? You're hitting too hard. We're just going to take you and put you over here. You make that charisma save, and maybe we'll let you come back.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are a couple other things with that 2 spells, and that brings us to our 4th one.
Yeah, so the next kind of spells you should be looking at are damaging shield spells. Now, when we say this, we're thinking of spells like Fire Shield, Shadow of Moil, basically things that even if the monk hits you, they're going to take a little bit of damage back. Yeah,
because here's the thing. Who cares if you're getting hit? If every single time you're getting hit, the shield is exploding.
Yes.
And it's doing those, 2d8 fire damage?
Yeah, for each hit, too.
Yeah, and there's no save on that.
Right.
They just get hit.
Yeah, because generally that monk is usually going to want to get in, even if they have a monk weapon, they want to get in there and whack you up close, usually, so.
Absolutely. Now, our last one is fairly self-explanatory, and you probably thought of this as well, terrain spells.
Yeah, monk is definitely one of those classes that can move incredibly fast. Like a level 20 monk can easily achieve 60 feet of movement in a turn. So
yeah, let's not talk about jumping or the fact that they can fall,
fall and like negate damage.
But spells like spike growth, for example, that basically just blanket the terrain with spikes, and they'll take 2d4 damage for every 5 feet that they step on it. So even if you're not a flying creature, position yourself all the way at the end, and if he's moving 60 feet of movement, 2d4 times the
however much feet are there,
30, the 30 on that, you're still taking a lot of damage for that.
Yeah, and even if they don't go through that, they're going to have to walk around. They are expending their turn and their movement just trying to navigate. So we always encourage labyrinths and mazes as well. But no, the terrain is a great way to basically kind of get around them, trying to just rush in. It forces them to kind of think about like, okay, do I move around or do I go through and take the damage?
Right, and we're not saying that these are the only ways to take out a monk. In fact, there may be ways around the things that we've come up with, but these have been successful for us, and now our players will sit there and try to figure out how to get around the stuff that we just said.
Yeah.
But there are some little tips at the end.
Yeah, so for example, one of the key abilities that a monk can do is basically on a successful punch, they can actually try and stun with a con save. Get your heavy con or your meaty characters up there to take the blows and also succeed in the con saves, hopefully. Also, resistance and immunity to bludgeoning. Again, the monk can use different ways of hitting, but if you're
sharp claws, pointy teeth, those are the ways that you hit a monk.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't hit a monk with your fists, they're going to win.
Exactly.
They've been training their whole lives for this. But remember, too, they're a class with a point system. So if you're the DM and you have control over how many short rests and things that people can do, don't necessarily allow a short rest before you're going in for the major encounter.
Always remember that they have to count the resources when they're running this character too.
Right. And remember, we're not talking about making this bad for your players. We don't want to make a scene where your players are frustrated. You just don't want to have a scene where you as the DM feel like you're not being able to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing I was going to mention really quick is that monks do gain immunity to disease and poison. They're not immune to being petrified or paralyzed or other things like that. So do take advantage, if you can, of other status ailments as well.
Now, they do get that status ailment fix thing with the charmed or the...
They do, with the frightened too. So that's something you have to watch out for. But again, they don't get everything. And that's the thing that you always have to remember too. No class gets everything in D&D, so always play to your strengths on your side of the DM screen.
And if you want to make a monster that flies, can cast magic missile, has banishment, feeble mind, a fire shield, and has spike growth, and you will take down that monk, sure thing. So I want to take this moment to thank everyone for supporting our channel, as well as our Patreons who keep funding us for things like this.
Yes, they do help with a lot of the wonderful things that you see here or in the background. So again, we do appreciate it. If you do want to help us out, you can follow the link below if you want to get in on that as well. We do have exclusive Patreon rewards that you can kind of check out, some behind the scenes things. So there's some goodies if you do decide to support us.
And if you've got something you want to see play tested, go ahead and send it to us over there at the Maw. We play every other Tuesday night, and we'd be happy to play test your things live on stream. So remember, the best campaigns are always the ones that are homebrewed. So until next time, keep brewing.